Welcome to the Power of the Truth podcast with me, Fran Willoughby. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm joined by someone who has had a huge impact on my own journey, the brilliant and insightful Hannah McIntyre. Hannah isn't just a guest on this podcast. She's a mentor, a guide, and someone I deeply trust to tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. That honesty is exactly what drew me to her, both as part of her incredible school and in life. Hannah's wisdom and openness about the world of mediumship are unlike anyone else I've ever encountered, and I'm so grateful she found the time to share her perspective with us today. So sit back, open your mind, and enjoy this honest and enlightening conversation with Hannah McIntyre. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast, Hannah McIntyre. I am so excited to have you here. I have been looking forward to interviewing you for, about 6 months now. The truth is a big deal for you, I know. So for those listeners who don't know who you are, please can you tell us a bit about you and who you are, please? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Fran. I'm really, really excited to be here. So I am a medium. I work as an evidential medium, a teacher. I have my own podcast and my own book about mediumship. But I guess my shtick is that I didn't know I was a medium. I didn't know that that was something that is available to everybody. I kind of tripped over mediumship by accident, although are there accidents? We don't know. And I think one of my gifts, in inverted commas, is that I question everything. And so the truth is really important to me because there is the industry that I thought I understood when I fell into it about how mediumship works. And then there is the reality of what mediumship is and how it works. And they're not simpatico. And I've had to learn to sort of walk that path, wobble my way through it. So that's kind of me.
Yeah, no, I completely can resonate with that. So tell us a bit how your mediumship journey began. So you said, you tripped over it. It was an accident. You didn't know you could do it. I know because I've read your book. Hannah has a book, by the way. How did you come? How old were you? How did this come about? Tell us more.
Well, I was 29 and bloody miserable. Really, really unhappy. I had 2 children who I love very much, but I just felt like I'd had these children, and I think probably should have thought about it a bit more before I had children, because once I had them, I had this massive sort of, what world have I brought them into? I'm so unhappy. I feel so powerless. Life is so hard. This is so miserable kind of mindset going on. We had real financial struggles. Both my husband and I worked in finance when we met. And then obviously we had the market crash. Everything bottomed out. We were struggling. It was really difficult. A friend of mine gave me a job, but actually used it as an opportunity to sort of put power over me and wasn't particularly kind about it. And that just all fed into my life is hard, life is horrible, I don't like it here. And then I had the guilt because I'd brought 2 children into the world and was having these thoughts about the world, like, oh, sorry about that, kids. And I was at work one day when a work colleague of mine, we were chatting away, and I always knew she was a bit crazy. That's kind of what I'd have called her, was crazy. And she had this energy that when you were around her, you start to feel better. And I always knew that about her. She could always lift the mood. You always knew when she was in the room, she was very loud, very vibrant. And it just felt like the sun coming out from behind a cloud every time I was with her. But I didn't really think about what that meant, or I didn't know about frequencies, energy then. So she just was fun. And one day she just got my grandfather through. She just went, "Oh, Hannah, your granddad's here." And I went, "Sorry, what?" And I had watched Medium on the TV. I believed that mediums existed. And I missed my grandfather catastrophically. But it had never occurred to me to go to a medium. No one I knew had been to a medium. No one I knew had had a reading. No one had ever had a conversation with me about it. It just wasn't really part of my reality. And I have to say, I wasn't a great sitter in retrospect. I did kind of go, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And she proceeded to give me evidence that was so mind-blowing to me. It literally took the air out of my chest. I literally felt like I've been sucker punched and just completely changed my life. And she said to me, oh, you're shiny. Come to my circle. And I went to her circle with the teacher that we both had, Jill, thinking that I was going to be an audience member, that I was going to watch other people do this. I didn't really know what a circle was. I just went, yeah, cool, and went along and rocked up at this group. And they sort of went, your turn. And I said, oh, no, no, no. I'm just here to watch. Like, sorry. And they said, oh, no, everybody can do this. Everybody needs to give it a go. And that was just the start.
Wow. That's crazy. I've never heard you talk about it in that much detail before. I love it. And it's so interesting, isn't it? People used to call me that when I worked in offices. They actually once called me in to the office, the managers where I worked, and said, we just want to let you know that, if you're a bit tired or you're having a down day, it affects everybody in the office. And so, you really need to just try and be upbeat and perky all the time because, it really affects everyone. And I remember thinking, oh God, is that my responsibility?
No pressure.
No pressure. No, and I wasn't a manager at this point. I did go on to be, but, and I'm thinking, surely that's your job, like to go around and motivate everybody in that office, not me. And that moment again was really pivotal for me and actually is part of the kind of whole mojo thing that came about with me because I realized that's what, that whole transfer of energy, what that means and how it works when you're with people and why people are drawn to certain people. It's so interesting. What was her name?
Well, she likes to be anonymous, so I had
Oh,
to call her
does she?
Sylvia in the book.
Oh,
Yeah, she doesn't.
Sylvie.
She doesn't want to be outed as a medium.
Oh, that's so well, and we'll get to that later. Very
Yeah,
interesting. But oh, that's so interesting. So it's just something she does for herself and she doesn't.
yeah, yeah. Something she does that she can do really well, which is part of, obviously, you've heard me witter on, but the exploration of mediumship, of trying to do it versus letting it be natural.
Yeah.
And because she doesn't force it and as a natural, she doesn't take clients, she just does it when it's aligned. And yeah, the quality of that reading was amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. So taking you back again, back to the beginning. So you stood in that circle, you did that first, I've been there, I did that not that long ago, and it, yeah, blew my mind because I wasn't trying to do it. And I had exactly the same experience, weirdly. But, and then obviously you try to do it and you can't do it. But anyway, so taking you back to that first moment, you've done that, you had a go. Did you get something on that first? No.
No, not at
Interesting.
all. And the first circles that I sat in were spirit guide circles. They weren't evidential mediumship circles. So evidential came in with me much later. And just because your listeners aren't mediums, I'm just going to say evidential mediumship is communicating with loved ones in spirit, proof of life after death. Spirit guide is your team of helpers, however you want to view that, in the spirit world, who give you guidance, support, and inspiration. So I worked with spirit guides exclusively for first 5 years of my journey, I think. So yeah, so it was just working with spirit guides, but I fumbled nothing, couldn't do it. I mean, the weird thing is that circle was actually an advanced circle. I don't know even why they let me in retrospect. So it was just bat batshit
I have no
crazy.
control. Yeah.
It was absolute lunacy
Yeah.
because they were all way down the path, years and years in development. Crazy stuff was happening. And I was just there going, what? 2 months ago, I kind of hoped there was a spirit world, but didn't know there was a spirit world. And now I'm in this room with this group of people and phenomena's happening. And it was just mind blowing.
So moving on a little bit, obviously then you found this world, you were so kind of like, oh my goodness, this is a thing. And you start to get the evidence. So, how did that progress then? Because presumably you then came home and said to your husband, I've had this amazing experience. How did he react when you told him about all of that?
I actually don't think I told him about the crazy stuff. I didn't tell him about. And he didn't really ask. It's this weird, when I look back at it, it's so weird to be married to someone but have these completely separate. I mean, I did not have the vocabulary for what I experienced. I did not understand it. I was in awe of it, a little afraid of some of it. It was really weird. So for a long time, Circle was almost just like doing something a bit woo. And then I would tell him the odd thing, but I wouldn't go into the depths of it because I couldn't make sense of it to me. It was so life-changing that I couldn't compute it to be able to explain it to anybody else because my whole world had been turned upside down and I was just clinging to reality, feeling like everything had gone nuts. So there was a sort of slow evolution in talking to Alex about it. And I like to think of it like a sharp-edged stone in a river. I just kind of rubbed up against him over time until it just happened.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely totally relate to that. So, did you tell other people, or did you just really keep it to yourself for all that time?
I I think I told people that I was going to, I didn't keep it secret consciously, but I had two small children. I think my daughter was one, two. My son was three, four. Life was really busy. I was here, I had a cooking business. So it's not that I didn't talk to about it, but there was so much stuff going on. My life was peeling 25-kilo bags of potatoes by hand 12 times a week. Those were where I was at, dropping the kids off, picking the kids up, childminder, this, that, and the other. It was just hectic. So I couldn't really sit with my experiences, the early experiences. And what ended up happening with that circle was my friend left. I didn't feel comfortable going without her because in the drive home, she would explain things to me because it was an advanced circle. They weren't supposed to be explaining things to me. So
Yeah.
I would just leave going, what? Who? What's a spirit guide? What? And she would explain it to me. So without her, I didn't feel safe going. And then there was a little bit of a gap. And then the teacher started a beginners circle and invited me to it. And I went back and learned from the beginning, which was much better. But a lot of the experiences that I had in that advanced group at the beginning, I just put in a box in my mind that I didn't even open for 2 years because it
Wow.
was too crazy and I couldn't cope with it.
Interesting. And it's just like a hobby, really, I suppose, at
Yeah.
that point. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, this is interesting, you know. Yeah.
This is fun. Tell
It's
me about
different.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And because you're Capricorn, as am I, naturally curious, a bit nosy, like
There's this whole other world beyond the world that we're in.
so when did the shift happen for you where you suddenly went, actually, I think I'm going to have to start telling people about this. And I do liken it a bit to coming out. Like it is,
Yeah.
because people have such set opinions, don't they, about
Yeah.
it. So,
I
yeah,
I
how?
don't think I don't right. But from with friends and family, it just sort of ebbed out. It sort of leaked out of me, which is a really gross expression, but I'm going with it. It came out of me in dribs and drabs. Oh, did you know this happened? Or like my grandfather coming through, I told my mum about, which blew her mind and she couldn't quite compute because I felt like I'd got her dad through. I wanted to share the good news. And then in that weird way, like you think something miraculous like that happens, you talk about it every time you see someone, but we didn't. And because I think it's just beyond, it was just so out of our realm of expectation. What do you do with that?
Mm.
So I think there was this kind of evolution. And then my teacher would do like a weekend course. So I'd be gone all weekend learning to do autographs or learning to do Reiki, learning to do angelic Reiki. Reiki's a really good introduction for people. I work with healing and energy and stuff like that. So probably came out in that. And then there was the big leap when I launched my business. And that really, I think I was a bit naive in the sense that I didn't realize what the coming out would be like, and that there would be people that were desperately uncomfortable with it. And there would be people that would think I was a fraud and tell me that to my face and tell me that I was ripping people off, people who knew me, had known me for years, who can't separate their opinion of mediumship from me. And I wasn't expecting that.
No. I can imagine that must be really painful, actually. We liken it to coming out because people have such firm opinions that they suddenly go, actually, I can't be friends with you anymore because this is too much for me. And I can't imagine how you dealt with that, because if you're someone who really believes in integrity and your own sense of self, and I mean, for me, being accused of lying is pretty much like the worst thing that you can do to me. Truth is that important to me, that integrity and that honesty. And it gets me into trouble. Over the years, I've got myself into trouble a lot for saying
The truth.
the truth. For me, being accused of lying, it'd be the worst. And I can imagine for you, that would be equally upsetting. So how did that affect you in those early days? Did it put you off?
No, it made me feel sad for them because everything had changed for me. And I think there's this real thing that we have to be very mindful of when we fall down the spiritual rabbit hole, that it is so mind-blowing and so life-changing, and you feel so much more hopeful and happier and so much more in control. And then you become a bit like a cult member and you start trying to recruit people. And that is what you have to stop yourself from doing, because just like spirit found me at exactly the right time, exactly the right time. It couldn't have worked at any other time. I needed to be where I was. I needed to experience what I was. I needed to be sending out that cry for help to get the help back. You can't deny somebody else that in their journey. And so I think there were some times where me and my naivety and not really comprehending the right time, the right moment, and perhaps not trusting spirit as I should to be able to do the job, kind of moved into that ego space of, well, let me tell you why I'm not a fraud. Let me teach. If someone calls you a fraud, they don't want to know. They don't want to enter a discussion about it. They don't want to have their mind changed. They don't, if they say, oh, that's weird, I didn't know the spirit world existed, I've always thought it was a load of rubbish. They're engaging you in a conversation. If they're calling you names, they don't want to know. They're not asking you questions. They are shut down. And so you have to learn to navigate that. And there have been times where I've tried to stand up for myself and times where I've just gone, that's how they feel. And it is hard, but it's also kind of how people feel about me is really none of my business.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? That separation where you step back and go, actually, I have to decide now that I don't care what you think
Yeah,
about me because I'm on my journey and you're on yours. And that's cool. Like,
yeah,
I'm fine with that. That
exactly that.
does take a level of confidence, though, doesn't it? Don't you think?
I think it's just you don't have any other choice. You
Yeah.
can let it eat, you can let it burn a hole through the center of you, or you can just get on with it. I mean, it did change my relationships with people, and it did change my relationships with a lot of people that I saw like on the school run and things like that. I ended up becoming somebody that had pulled back a lot from a lot of people, just because there's so many things that happen when you step out the closet as a medium. You get the whole, oh, watch out for her, she knows what you're thinking stuff, and you go, ha ha ha. First day it's funny, 15th day less so, and so on and so forth. But then you also get the people that just want an eternal, what can you see around me now? Nothing, I'm picking my kids up from school, like nothing. So you have that kind of stuff to deal with as well as the people in real need. You open up, you have to learn to control. You have to learn that you are aware of how people are feeling, but that's also none of your business. If they're not asking for help, you can be aware that someone's struggling. People have to be empowered to ask. It's not your job to wade in. So many lessons through that.
And that ethical line of what you teach actually is so important, isn't it? And comes with another level of integrity and honesty, which is, I think, why a lot of people are drawn to your teaching, because you don't hold back from saying, you can't say that to people. It's not your place. It's not your business. You have to be careful. And lots of people may feel like they have this natural innate ability to communicate and that they have to tell everybody all the time what they're seeing, feeling. And actually, in that moment, they're not thinking about the person they're telling, are they?
No, because that's the thing. It is freaking cool.
Yeah.
It is cool. So there is part of you that wants to go, look at what I can do. There is, like, it's cool. But you have to also be mindful of what you're dealing with. And spirit really schooled me in that. I had a lot of experiences where I had to realize that I was being an asshole. And it was humbling and hard and painful. But no, you're right, nobody was teaching it.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of learn from overriding people's barriers and boundaries and doing the wrong thing and seeing the results of my actions and sitting with them and thinking of them about it to improve. So yeah, it's a big passion of mine, as you know.
Yeah. So you started your business. Did you start just doing readings for people and then it just grew from there? Is that
Yeah, I
basically?
did card readings and Reiki. So my business at the beginning was called Readings and Reiki because I didn't want my name on it. So I stepped out of the closet, but only a little bit. So it was readings and Reiki. I was readings and Reiki on Facebook. I was readings and Reiki on the website. My name was around, but it wasn't there. I didn't post much of my face. Now everybody's sick of it. So that's how you change and evolve and grow. Oh, there's that mugging again. And yeah, and most of it really was just word of mouth. I still had my cooking business. I couldn't really understand that this was going to be my job, especially after cooking, because cooking is brutally hard, physically intensive, and you smell like onions all the time. So to be in a job where you got to sit in healing energy all day, sit with spirit all day, and burn incense and smell faintly of that felt like a too far. Too much of a leap, but that is where I ended up moving. And it was just incrementally. Like I was lucky in a sense that I obviously did have a bit of a client base from the cooking business. Now, of course, the majority of that client base were not into the woo, but I was used to running a business. I was used to being seen. I'm a really, really good networker generally. Like I know a lot of people know me. My sister started a painting and decorating business a few years ago. And just from me sharing it, she filled her books because I know so many people. So I just kind of put it out there, didn't like when, oh, I'll see what happens. Sold out first week, sold out second week. And then and then I started thinking, oh, maybe I don't have to cook. Maybe I could drop some cooking and it just petered out and
Yeah.
swapped.
And so you mentioned obviously you did venture into the online world at that moment with your Facebook page, etc., etc. So at what point did you then start to get pushback from people online? Because I know that has been a big problem, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I think mainly that happens, well, now on Facebook, that mainly happens from ads because your own followers don't see your posts on Facebook. So the chances of someone who doesn't follow a medium seeing it is really low. But it was really over lockdown that I really started to reach people online. And it was a baptism of fire. I was so naive skipping into this. So I'd done a few lives on Facebook and I'd built a reasonable few thousand followers. I was very happy with that. I always sold out of readings. So that was my ambitions filled at that time, was just, and I just booked a load of venues to start demonstrating, and lockdown hit. And I had a couple of circles I was teaching. So yeah, I was quite happy with that. The circles were running. I'd do the odd weekend course. I was working on my evidential mediumship. I decided to take the leap, and then lockdown hit. And because lockdown hit, I did loads of going live online and stuff like that. And that is when my reach skyrocketed. And that is when I reached people who hate me. And that was, I mean, I know as an idea that the people that write the things that they write It's just a sign of their own unhappiness. I understand that as a concept. I know that to be true. Nobody who is happy in their life is trolling anybody, regardless of belief system. Doesn't matter, regardless of race, regardless of sexuality. Nobody who is happy is bothered with that stuff because they're living a happy life. But it is hard. I mean, yesterday I had someone call me a lying cow. I shared it on my stories because that's how I cope with it, because I find it funny. But I could feel the energy of that before I opened my phone. I came down in the morning, good morning, world. And then I was like making the coffee and I went, oh, I don't want to open Facebook today. And I just knew that somewhere in there I would be finding something. The worst thing really is the things that people have sent to my home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's another level of hatred that I didn't expect. Over lockdown, it is hilarious now, but at the time it was quite shocking. I had this huge reach, which I had to learn to manage. Going live when 300 people are watching it versus going live when 5,000 people are watching it, it's a completely different kettle of fish. Feeling so exposed, so vulnerable, so like everybody had a piece of me was an energetic experience in itself. And then this letter arrived and it said it was supposed to be from a man telling me that his wife was having an affair with my husband and that he didn't want to tell me. There was no address, no name, but that she had come to me for a reading and I couldn't be as good a medium as I thought I was because I hadn't picked it up in the reading. But in a way, I was really lucky. I mean, I'm really lucky because I trust my husband anyway, but he'd been driving me mad. Like, I was trying to work. My business had skyrocketed. I was here, there, everywhere, writing courses, teaching courses, working online. I was so busy. And he was just popping up like a jack in the box everywhere because he was bored and lonely. So there was no chance for him to have been having an affair with anyone. Chance would have been a fine thing. Like I couldn't get rid of the guy. And so in a way, it was the most perfect time for me to receive it because, after lockdown, he then went to work in London. And he'd worked in London before then, so we'd had a lot of time apart, but there was just no way that was happening. There's just no way. So it was good timing. But the fact that somebody hates me enough to go to the effort to type a letter, to make up a story, to print it out and post it, put a stamp on it, that's a lot. That's a lot of energy.
And from a truth perspective, like obviously for you, you knew that wasn't true. So you could rationalize that and go, this person's obviously really unhappy, as upsetting as it was, and as distressing actually as that must have been to have someone think they know where I live. God, that's horrendous. But from their point of view, what was going through their mind about, I'm just going to write this whole pack of lies like that for me, it does not compute. I can't imagine making up that kind of stuff. Like, there are people in the world that just thrive off telling lies to hurt other people. What is that? Like,
I know. They just tried to write the most damaging story they could think of. Because this is the thing, we understand this, but people have their opinions about mediums. That's one thing. But there are also people that really don't like it when people they know become successful. And they obviously knew me enough to name my husband. So there's some sort of element there in that, I might have mentioned his name on a live. He's not anonymous. He wishes he was. But there may have been something there, but it felt personal.
yeah. Well, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that? I know you have to put on a show, you have to turn up, you have to put on your smile. I know that because I'm a teacher as well and I teach people, and I could have had the worst day, but when I walk into that studio to teach that dance class, I turn it on and I switch it on and you do what you have to do. But when you walk away from that and you actually sit with it, which I know we talk about a lot, sitting with yourself, how those feelings, how do you deal with that? Where do you put them? Those feelings of people accusing you of lying, like that.
I'm quite competitive, so that helps because I just use it.
Yeah.
I just use it. I see people all the time, intentionally and unintentionally, copying my work all the time and things like that. So people who don't like me, I block them. They're done. gone. It's like an annoying fly now. It was at the beginning incredibly painful. I had to sit with that a lot because this is a process of self, isn't it? And so when someone's telling you stuff, it triggers you as yourself. So you have to do the inner work, you have to sit with it, and then it just becomes like a fly that you swat. I try and think of funny replies. I put them on my stories, not because there's always that thing where people say, well, you're adding to the negativity. But also, when I first got trolls, no one was talking about them getting trolls. So I thought it was just me. I thought it was a personal attack.
Yeah.
So I share it so that other people who are taking those steps in vulnerability of launching their businesses can go, oh, okay, well, that's happened to Hannah. That's
Yeah.
going to happen to me, and be prepared. And I think that's the job. But
Your response
every,
yesterday was brilliant, by the way. It's
oh,
two
thanks.
it's 2.99, love. Like, get a grip. It was just hilarious.
I
Perfect.
mean, I was that between that and correcting the spellings, and I was like, where do I go? Which side of petty do I want to be today? And this is the thing, sometimes there was this stupid filter you could use on TikTok that was crying. And somebody called me something horrendous. So I replied to their comment on TikTok and went, oh no, how am I ever going to cope without the validation? And then people, like in my own community, which was really funny, started going, that is not a spiritual response. I'm unfollowing you because that is not how we deal with stuff like this. And I was like, has anyone seen Jesus's throwing chairs and tables around when he had a tantrum? You're allowed to be human. And so you're never going to like my kind of mediumship if you just want to be like, oh, namaste, light and love, because I am fiery. I will bite back. I will try and make it funny, but I will put boundaries in with you.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of deal with that stuff.
And those people aren't your tribe, are they?
No,
They're too like, softly. Everyone has to speak in a hushed tone. And in the business world, when we talk about small business marketing and being yourself and unapologetically you, there are other people like me that are drawn to you because of that, because it's
yeah,
funny, because it makes you feel real, and because I like that honesty.
be a long time to do that. Long time. I spent a long time putting myself in a box of what I thought spirituality should be like. A great example of that is when I first started DEMing, and I used to play Josh Groban because it was like spiritual, innit? Before people came in, and then my friend Kim, she just came up to me and she was like, this is not you. This music is not you. And we put on the Black Eyed Peas and the vibration of the room lifted and it was so much easier to work. So we have ideas about what we think spirituality, being a spiritual person looks like. And different ideas resonate with different people. But I know at the beginning, I lost so much of myself trying to be what I thought spiritual was.
Yeah. And there you go. And I guess through your journey, and it's been a long one for the last however many years, you've learned to recognize what feels honest to you. But it's been a journey to that point, hasn't it?
There's layers of honesty. So when we talk about it being an unfoldment, it really is. It's not as pretty as a lily opening in a stream. We wish it was, but it is a case of here's the truth as I can comprehend it in this moment. And that is my truth. Oh, my awareness, my understanding has evolved. Now I can see a different truth. And so I think in spirituality, it's been stuck for a long time because there has just been, I was taught this truth, this is the truth. And it's kind of held it back. But actually, there's versions of truths, and all of them can be true at the same time, depending on where you're at, your point of reference, your understanding.
Yeah. So how do you stay truthful in a world that doubts you? What's your top tip for, is it literally just not giving a shit, like in terms of what people think, just blocking out the noise? Or is there something that you just have, like an affirmation or a step back or something that you do to just be like, this is who I am?
I wish I didn't give a shit. I really wish. I would love that. If I could cast a magic spell on myself, that would be the one that I would choose. I think it's more a case of the more I showed up as myself. I mean, my podcast was massive for me in that. If I had known how many people would listen to that, I would never have done it. because it would have been too exposing, too awkward. I'd have
Really?
second guessed it. I'd have wanted it to be perfect. I'd have held myself back. And so it's always a challenge for me to keep the early seasons out there, because some of the ideas and beliefs I had that were true to me in that moment are no longer. But also my delivery style, the way I do it, I give myself the ick. And I think
Okay.
because that resonated with so many people, I started understanding that's where my power is. And so more and more now, it's just a case of I can only speak the truth. I can only say what I've got to say and how I want to say it. And I have too much respect for the teachings I've had from Spirit to water it down, to make it more sellable, more viralable, to make it anything
More
other than what it
palatable.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing a reading for somebody and you know that as you want to be really honest about what it is you're giving, but how do you balance that? Because obviously there has to be a sensitivity, doesn't there, to the sitter and what they're going through or have been through, or the people that they've lost. You know, we do talk about it being essentially just one step removed from a grief counsellor, and it's a huge responsibility, isn't it?
Mhm.
So how do you, as a medium, as a working medium rather than a teacher in this moment, because I know they're the same but different, how do you navigate that part of it when you're giving a reading to be
I,
truthful but sensitive?
I think the point is always, how would I like to receive this information? And that should be your point of reference. I think what you learn to do as a medium is work a bit psychically, so energy reading of the sitter, because different people want things in different ways. So part of your work is to feel into how they're receiving it without losing your connection with the spirit, so that you can tailor it. Because some people are really brutally, they want it straight. And I'm not that kind of person. I want direction straight. I want to know next step straight. But if it's horrible and hard things, I don't want it straight. I prefer it softer. And so feeling into that and trying to navigate that. But if in doubt, don't say it. And that is really the key. And also understand that your awareness. So, for example, if you've got somebody that's taken their own life and it's really, really tragic in that, you can be aware of that energy and you can acknowledge that with the sitter for the evidence. I'm aware that they took their own life, but you don't need to go through a step by step every action that they took, every minute of it. That's about you then trying to, prove the mediumship to yourself
Yeah.
and being in that space. So it's about finding the balance in all things. And I have seen mediums be incredibly dramatic in horrible passings. And really, all they've done in that moment is made it about themselves. And I know we were talking yesterday about when you get to a point where a sitter is coming up to you after a reading and apologizing because their spirit connection for you as the medium was really hard, you've overstepped.
Yeah.
And so finding that balance always of sort of professional detachment, analysis. I mean, that's the thing about mediumship, isn't it? It's not as just like boo-ba-doo. It's not just passing the information on. You've got to be present. You've got to be mindful. You've got to be aware. That's the job.
Yeah. It's a huge responsibility. It really is. So, is there a time that you didn't speak your truth when it comes to mediumship? And what happened? Has there ever been a time when you've not really shared the honest truth of how you were feeling about something, either in a reading or on a dem? And was there a consequence?
I can give you, I mean, at the beginning, I would make up crap in the spirit guide circle so that I had something to say. Because I would spend the whole of the meditation going, am I meditating? Is this it? What is this? Oh, this chair's uncomfortable. Am I here? So, and then eventually I had to give myself a talking to, and I made a promise to spirit that I would never do it again. And I did have to go through a period of time where I just had to go, no, I've got nothing, I've got nothing, I've got nothing. And then all of a sudden stuff started coming in. But mostly for me, my thing has been in the business side of the mediumship. So I've made some really, I don't want to say fatal errors because they weren't quite fatal, but they felt fatal at the time. Some errors where I didn't speak up, where I didn't speak my truth, where I used to try and, I've really learned now that spirit will cheer you on, but if you get yourself stuck in the shit, you have to get yourself out of it. For a long time, I thought spirit were like good fairies and would wave magic wands and take stuff away. And so there were situations where I got myself into, I got myself into a partnership with somebody in a business, and we were going to do retreats. And then all of a sudden it just sort of snowballed. And all of a sudden it was going to be her full-time job. And all of a sudden we were going to do not just, I thought we could do one test retreat. All of a sudden she's looking at 12 a year. And I'm like, I've got small children. And all of a sudden she's set up a limited company and we've got a bank account and trademarks. And I'm going, what? And I never said a word because I just kept hoping that spirit would deal with it. And so it escalated and escalated. And by the time I finally spoke my truth, it was incredibly damaging to her and to me. And that was totally my fault, totally on me.
Interesting. And that taught you a huge lesson, I guess. You've probably never done that again, have you?
Speak up now. Just speak up now. Don't just go, oh, are you sure? And hope that they will understand that you don't want to spend 6 months of the year away from your family.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to say it, be true to you.
And has there been a moment for you on this journey, like a defining moment where you can honestly say that you stepped into your truth and it kind of changed everything? Was that one of those moments for you where you just went, wow, I'm never going to do that again?
Yeah, but there's been more positive ones as well. I think the biggest thing for me has been in my mediumship is when demonstrating, there's so many different aspects. And one of the things, as you will know, that I tell everyone to do is go watch loads of mediums. And the reason why I tell everybody that is because you have to learn from what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. And that's how it should be. And I think I was really good at gaslighting myself when I first started and saying that I should enjoy every form of mediumship. And actually, there's a learning and growth in accepting that certain ways of delivering and certain styles are not for you. And what really happened to me was the power that came in when I showed up as me. The difference in my connection, because evidential on a stage, you've got to bring the audience with you. You've got to take them on the journey. They've got to be invested in you, even if they're not getting the link. I have 150 people in my audiences normally. We know not everybody there is going to get a link. So you need to be able to show up authentically in the truth of who you are and what you think makes a good medium and what you think makes a good entertainer, because that's part of it, and take them with you rather than trying to be some version of you that is not vibrating with that. And that really shifted. My evidence skyrocketed as soon as I just allowed myself to be me.
That's so interesting, isn't it? And I'm sure as a result, your shows improved and you felt more accomplished, and the people who came to the shows enjoyed it more. And so there was this knock-on effect energetically,
Yeah.
which is incredible. So, how important is it speaking your truth as a medium versus speaking your truth as a businesswoman? Like, how do you separate the two?
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially in this current climate where, I mean, it's been interesting for me as somebody that's launched their own social media, come hybrid, whatever the hell we were just talking about it, moving in, whatever it's becoming. I am shocked by how conditioned I've become by Meta. I'm shocked by it because one of my big things was I want a platform where people post quality content when it feels aligned to them rather than content for content's sake. Because I know that there are great mediums, fantastic mediums that I know, but their content they are showing on Instagram is just so nothingy. There's no power behind it. There's no energy behind it. There's no newness behind it. It's just clickbaits. What's that thing that hooks?
Yeah. Content for content's sake, just because
Content, yeah.
Just feeding the algorithm, basically.
Feeding, yeah. And I worry about the long-term effects of that on our industry, because I used to really believe, I'm interested. I can't work out where spirit end and the algorithm begins. because I used to believe that if you stayed true and you were a beacon and you sent that energy out, the right people would be drawn to you.
Yeah.
And I still believe that to a certain extent, but I also feel like that is hampered in some way by the noise at the moment. And it's so noisy. And there's so many people that haven't done the integration work stepping up as mediums. And you know me, I'm the biggest championer of wanting new mediums, but you have to do the work and you have to learn the ethics and you have to sit with yourself. And there's too many people that aren't doing that launching. And then it's just content for content's sake. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was inspired by my Instagram feed. And that feels like a real shame because it used to be challenging idea. I want to be challenged. I want other ideas. Because as I said, the truth is only my truth from my limits and my understandings right now. I am up for having my mind changed. I am up for a debate like the one we had last night in Coffee and Questions about, and you brought a different perspective and someone else brought a different perspective. Good. That's how it should be. It should be a collaborative unfoldment where everyone sits. And I find that the industry as a whole now is just whatever's going to get interaction. And that's a real shame.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, how do you think that your truth telling, your authenticity, your unapologetically you-ness has helped you grow your business? What is it about that people are drawn to, do you think?
I think it's that. I know sometimes I bleat a bit too much, so I'm going to be fully disclose that. Sometimes, sometimes
Makes
it's a
one to
bit
know
like
one.
yeah. Sometimes my podcast is like a therapy session. I'm aware of that, but I think really it's that people don't realize that mediumship is a hard calling. And I know that every teacher I ever had talked about their best bits. And when I was then going out and flailing like a fish stuck in the mud, trying to get back in the river, going, oh my God. And people were saying, no, 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 no. And I was just dying with tummy ache and stress and grinding my teeth and wanting to cry all the time. There was no one talking about how hard it was. I looked, I couldn't find anyone. So then I thought that that was me, that there was something wrong with me. And yeah, anyone can be a medium, but maybe there's certain people they don't want on the team. It felt like PE again, I was
Yeah,
rubbish at
yeah.
PE, where you sat on the bench and everyone's like, last of all, I'll pick her. God, Spirit, it really felt like Spirit was saying to me at one stage, we don't want you, get the hint.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually being truthful about how hard it is, and that there's times when I can do it and times when I can't, and times when it works and times when it doesn't, has actually drawn so many people to me. And I think it's changing for a lot of people the way they view mediumship and how it works. And I'm really proud of that.
I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly. So do you think in this society that we live in where we all have too much information and too much noise and we don't tend to look inward perhaps as much as we did when we didn't have the distractions of social media and just all the noise that there is in modern society. Do you think as a result of that, people crave that truth and transparency more? Or do you think people, given half a chance, would still like to quite hide away in their little bubble and pretend nothing else is happening outside? It's
I
really
think it,
difficult.
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because I miss terribly the days when I believed that spirit were in charge, that I had no control over the outcome, that the path was laid before me and I just had to walk it. I miss that terribly because it was easier. It was easier than doing the work. It was easier than sitting with myself. I wanted to communicate with spirit because I wanted to leave the physical behind. And so when every path looped back inescapably to me, I felt cheated. I wanted to go off and float. I didn't want to be in my human life with the needs, the stresses, the demands, my feelings about myself, my mental health, my emotions, and all of that stuff. I wanted to be off in the, seventh plane, having a great time by the rings of Saturn. And so I completely understand. And this is why you have to be true, because vibrationally, there are people who are Hannah in 20, whatever year it was, years ago. Oh my God, was it really 20? Oh my, I can't work it out.
Don't
2009,
think about it.
2010.
Don't think about it.
How can this be? I wouldn't have been ready for the teaching that I have now.
No.
I wouldn't have been. And so it's that balance between having the power of the truth of that you're not going to be for everybody vibrationally, and you can know that you're teaching right at the cutting edge and right at the expansion point, but also understand that you have to give some other people a chance to catch up. And so in being true to you, you will attract the right people.
Yeah. No, I agree. So advice from you to anybody that is spiritually curious, anybody that thinks about it but is a little bit scared, because I know that you don't believe in the dark stuff and I don't either, and again that's something that draws me to you. But for anyone that's a bit is afraid to open up about their spiritual path, what would you say to them as a complete, newbie, new beginner, someone who's perhaps they might have had an odd experience, they think they might have seen a ghost or whatever, or they're just interested after listening to you? What would your advice be?
My advice would be you are the vessel, it starts with you. I mean, first of all, I would say there is nothing to fear. I mean, I really don't like the term ghost hunt because, like, there's someone's nan. like when you think about it properly, like everyone who's in the spirit world is somebody's loved one, it's somebody's child, it's somebody's nan, it's, you know what I mean? So when you go, oh, we're going on a ghost hunt, I'm like, who are you hunting? Like, think about it, like, really.
Yeah.
So remember that everybody in spirit, good and bad, is somebody who was a person here. There's no bad spirits, there is only the circumstance, the human stuff, but they're in spirit, it really is light and love. But the number one way to communicate with your spirit team is through yourself. It's your gut instinct. And you will have used it. You think, oh, I'm scared to open up to spirit, but you already have. You are spirit. And so the number of times that you will be able to count if you reflect back on the times that you knew you shouldn't do something, but you did it anyway and it went wrong. The times that you missed opportunities because you wanted to reach out for something, but you held yourself back. That is working with spirit. And that, for the most part, is what it's like when you're doing it for yourself. I don't believe in meditation. I don't believe you need to be better than you are. I don't believe you need to change who you are. I just think you need to be present with yourself. Sit with yourself, let the stuff come up that needs to come up, all those corks that you've plugged, all of those experiences and stories and emotions, pull them out one at a time, sit with them, and then follow your gut. If you know where you want to be and you get a good feeling about something, it might not make logical sense to your brain, but it's spirit guiding you.
Yeah, agreed. Intuition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the way.
And I think there are lots of words we use, aren't there, in our modern language, from, women's intuition and I know it's my gut feeling and things like that people don't necessarily associate with being spiritual. But in actual fact, even the other day, I was having a conversation, ironically, about my journey kind of with spirit, with my husband, who is a complete skeptic, by the way, complete skeptic, doesn't believe it. You're born, you die, end of story, nothing
Yeah.
else. And I was having a conversation with him about it, saying, how do you feel about what I'm, this journey that I'm on? And he said, well, it's fine. I'll support you. We don't, I don't have to believe the same as you. I was like, no, that's totally fine. And I was just looking at him and he went, what are you thinking? I know you're thinking something. And I can tell, and I in my head, I was laughing because I was thinking, he's reading me psychically right now.
Absolutely.
No,
I mean,
he doesn't know he's doing it,
yeah.
you know.
I have to say, I think my husband's fear as a non-believer was that everyone would think I was some sort of scam artist. And then we used to go to dinner parties and things, and he would say, please don't tell people what you do. And I would say, okay, and hedge around it. And then again, an unfoldment into me saying to him, I can't, if someone asks me directly, I'm not going to lie. And then it just being this crazy kind of, every time I told anybody, they'd go, Oh my God, let me tell you about this because they've had no one to tell this crazy experience that they've had to. And my husband's sitting there and realizing that people weren't recoiling in horror. Some did, of course,
Yeah.
but they weren't recoiling in horror.
Interesting.
It was an outlet of experiences for them that really helped.
Yeah, interesting. And actually, that was one of my kind of questions that I think I've glossed over because we just talk and talk, which, was how did you deal with that right at the beginning? When, in your relationship, and yeah, because I feel that now. I have said to him, there will be pushback if I decide to do this. I will get people who, and he was like, woe betide the person that tries to do that to you, even though, which is lovely. But
Yeah.
it's a really interesting journey, that isn't it? Because it doesn't just affect you, it affects the people around you, it affects, how do your kids cope with it? Did they get any backlash from people at school and stuff?
I think my daughter has. I mean, unfortunately for her, I mean, I haven't gone live on TikTok again since because some of her friends found me on TikTok.
That happened to me
And
too.
yeah, and I really felt like I'd invaded her space with that.
Yeah.
I felt bad for that. So it's just, I mean, also TikTok Live is really confusing, and I'm such a boomer that it's the most overstimulating platform for going live on I've ever come
Is
across.
it? I haven't. I've only done it once actually, and I think yeah. Anyway,
Like, what? There's so much stuff on the screen, and like I can barely see my camera screen. I need my glasses on. Like it's just like yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. My son totally. He's told me I'm having a long-term psychosis or hallucination,
right.
and that is fine. It's
Yeah.
fine for me. I don't mind. My husband, again, like yours, doesn't believe, but doesn't believe I'm a liar either, and so just doesn't question that much.
I think Jared's
Just
the same. It's so
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
just like can't quite make the two sides of his brain match up, doesn't try to. Interesting with my husband, after being a real non-believer, one day, I mean, it's not recommended, but I had two glasses of wine at Sunday lunch,
Gosh.
and I was feeling a bit rambunctious. And he went, go on, give it a go then. We were talking about spirit. I was letting some stuff out because essentially, the times I talked about stuff was when I was a bit chatty after some wine,
Yeah.
captive audience. And I went, oh, right, then I will. And I got someone through for him. And I think because I'd had a couple of glasses of wine, I could really surrender and not feel the pressure of the situation. It felt playful. And it was really interesting because I got a man through for him and he just sat there and didn't say much. And then he went, but if it's this person, they're still alive. And I said, oh, I don't know this. I can only tell you this. And then I got another bit of evidence through and he went, no. And then he looked them up and they died and he didn't know. And he hadn't been invited to the funeral. He was very upset about it. And I think for him, he's still got that kind of in a box. It's there. It's always funny to me when people ask him, so how do you feel about, and it's hard for him because bless him, no one ever talks to him now. He's a financial advisor. Pensions are boring. No one says, tell us about the greatest, what market should I be investing in? People go, oh, what do you think about Hannah? And I feel really sorry for him because that he didn't ask to go on this journey. This journey kind of swept me and them up with it vicariously.
Yeah. I'm really aware of that, and I think that my boys, it's voodoo shit. That's what they call it. And they think it's funny that they call it
Yeah.
that. Yeah, mum's lost it. She's dabbling with all her voodoo shit again, and that's fine. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. And we go along with it, don't we? That's their truth right now. But interestingly, I've always talked about, since they were very little, intuition, and that's obviously just how it's meant to be right now. And I've always talked in a kind of spiritual manner, I suppose, and with my husband too. So this is not new information for him. This is, and my family are all very spiritual, and he just kind of has always rolled his eyes and gone, oh right, okay, fine, whatever. And that's his truth, and I'm fine with that. Like I've genuinely got no issue with him believing that or not.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the power of the truth, if you will. That
Yeah.
that's my truth, that's my power, that's his power, that's fine. And we don't have to believe the same, do we?
We don't. We don't. And that's as soon as you realize that you're not recruiting for the spirit world, that if they wanted to, they can, as you probably know from the gateway, there's a lady on the gateway whose boyfriend's a non-believer, partner's a non-believer, and he's seen a fully formed effigy of a spirit on multiple occasions.
Oh, I didn't know.
And it just cracks me up. I bring it up a lot because I find it really fascinating. Like if spirit wanted to, they would,
Yeah,
and they don't. So it's not my job. It's not
no,
my job.
no. Okay, so we've been talking now for an hour. So we
No
probably should
surprises.
think about wrapping it up a little bit. If people are interested in what you do and they are like, wow, this is a little bit me, how do they find you? There's lots of places I know. So go on, tell us everything.
The probably easiest is just to go on my website, which is hannahmedium.co.uk, and you should be able to find everything from there.
Yeah. And Spirit Social, which is the new, obviously, your new platform, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that is an app for us all light workers who want to stay aligned and want to stay in our truths and want to be opened up to new ways of thinking where we can get together, connect, converse, ask questions. There's loads of workshops and live events and demonstrations. It's amazing.
it is amazing. And actually, if they just gently want to be introduced to it, your fabulous book, which is You Are a Medium, You Just Don't Know It Yet. In fact, I have my copy right
Oh
here.
my goodness. I
Do
love
that
when
on
you come.
purpose. I actually have two because one was my mum's, and
Oh,
yeah. In fact, I think this one was hers. So yeah, there you
there
go.
we go.
There you go. So that You Are a Medium, You Just Don't Know It Yet. Available at all good bookshops and on Amazon. Uh,
Perfect. Thank you.
welcome. Right, quick fire. Finish off.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, I've got a few actually. So, a quick truth about you that might surprise people.
I'm actually really unconfident.
Huh. Does the truth set you free?
Yes.
Hmm. What was the last little white lie you told?
Oh my God. The last little white lie. Probably trying to judge somebody up when their imposter syndrome's taken a hold of them. Probably giving them some zhuzh.
Fair enough. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Hmm. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird-ish.
Yeah, I'm terrible the other way. One book that shaped your thinking that you would recommend?
Stephen King's The Stand.
Huh, interesting. Your go-to song if you need a lift?
Oh, probably RuPaul Drag Queen's Read You Wrote You.
Right, I'll have to look that one up. And a phrase you live by?
Okay. Or just fucking do it. Just fucking do it. Honestly, just do it. Everyone holds themselves back. Just do it. Like, I have to say, sorry, I know it's supposed to be quick fire, and I've really tried to be quick fire for me. But one of the things that has shocked me as a medium is that when I started this journey, I assumed they would mostly be elderly people, and they haven't been. And you realize how precious this is. And you realize, if you could take one overwhelming piece of advice from the spirit world, it is always just do what you want to do. It goes too quickly. And that comes through whether they are 10 years old or 90 years old, whether they are 45 or 102. They all feel like it goes too quickly, and they all just want you to live your life.
Amazing advice. Hannah McIntyre, you have been incredible. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.